Today's event is called the Offsite SEO Playbook for AI search. And we kind of batted the topic around is SEO really, something that we want to make reference to? And is SEO dead? And our speaker, Ross, is probably one of the more interesting people on the worldwide landscape who's challenging the norm. And I'm going to have Ross introduce himself in just a moment. But as Pam mentioned, we got introduced to Ross through CMO Coffee Talk. And it's like we knew immediately that, he's doing something interesting. He's looking at data, he's analyzing data. And what we love about the whole Sammy approach is that, he's highly opinionated. Now, he's based in Canada, so he's going to be opinionated, but he's probably going to be nice. And this morning he told me he's a Philadelphia Flyers fan. So that just totally blows everything away about being nice. So it'll be wonderful. But before we begin the session, there was something that, the team and I and Ross and I were talking about is there was a book called Don't Make Me Think by Steve Krug many, many years ago. And it was basically saying it was about websites. And when you go to a website, if the person has to think, you're going to lose them. And what I realized, there's a parallel here. There's a parallel to search. Let's think about how we've done search and how we found things. And then we'd have to think about which link do I choose. And oftentimes, many of the links on the page one of the SERPs were horrible anyways. And then we had to go back through. And today, it's not about the search, it's about the find. Okay, and this is why, Ross's topic here is so critically important. But for us as marketers, those of us, and I'll be a little snarky, who spent way too much money on SEO because we're at board meetings and the CEO is beating us on the head. It's like, oh, I Googled XYZ on our site, and here we are, a company of maybe 10 people, and we didn't come up number one. So we did a great job wasting all that money on search. And like, again, there's some great search companies. But what Ross is going to propose today is something different. And the whole LLM agentic world changes everything. And so Ross is going to very kindly navigate us through this whole thing. And like every Sammy session, Ross is going to turn around and give you something that you can apply within 5 minutes of leaving today's call. So I have spoken enough. I am honored to have Ross Simmonds here today. So Ross, I am going to turn it over to you. I'll let you introduce yourself, talk about your firm, and let's jump in. And by the way,
Great.
folks, just one quick note. Sorry, Ross. Drop questions in the chat as Pam mentioned, and we'll be answering questions along the way. We'll be grouping some of them together. So sorry about that, Ross. All yours.
No apologies necessary. You're not Canadian. Thank you all so much. Really appreciate it. As mentioned, I'm Ross, thrilled to be here. I run two companies, Foundation Marketing, which works with B2B brands, helping them improve their AI visibility. We've been in the content distribution game since 2014. I also run a company called Distribution.ai, which was built on the back of the concepts of my book, Create Once, Distribute Forever. I'm not here to talk too much about what I do. I'm here to try to add value. So let's jump right into it, folks. When Rob was talking, he talked about Don't Make Me Think. I want you all for a second to think. Think back to dial-up internet. I want you to think back to maybe ICQ. Some of you might be familiar with it. Some of you might be familiar with Yahoo Messenger, AIM. Do you remember the AOL DVDs? If you recognize or remember any of the things that I am saying, please drop them in the chat. I would love to know if anyone remembers these. Yes, I am with you, Damien. ICQ is the OG. Was it ICQ that said, uh-oh? Does anyone remember? I think it was ICQ. It might have been MSN. Does anyone remember printing out maps from the computer and then driving with the printouts from MapQuest? I remember those days. Or going to Blockbuster. This is a memory, a core memory that my kids will never have, and it hurts me that they will not. Going to Blockbuster, picking out a movie, and debating for hours. I still think Netflix takes way longer than just going to Blockbuster. And the smell of the popcorn within the actual store. Those were the good old days. Or cartridges. I don't know, Nintendo Some people might even know Atari if we're going way back into time, PlayStation, N64, Game Boy when they first came out. And you remember when you would have a movie that you would watch and it wouldn't play, or not a movie, but a game, you would try to play the game, but it wouldn't work. There might have been dust on the cartridge and you would have to blow it. And if you're like hardcore, you would have to suck. Like, it was crazy. That's wild. But all of those things. CDs, I'm now married to the first person who I ever gave a burnt CD to. We were way back in high school and I made her a CD and I gave it to her. I don't know, like maybe you remember vinyls. I don't know, all of these things. The reason why I said these things, folks, is because I wanted to take you back. I wanted to take you back with just a few words, a few ideas, a few concepts that probably brought back memories of an ex, might have brought back memories of a childhood, your high school years, your college years, your teenage years. They probably took you back. That wasn't you really thinking hard. It wasn't a deep thought that you had to take, but it was a memory. It was something stuck into the back of your mind that I was able to pull out through what would be called Inception. I don't know if any of you have ever seen the movie Inception, but it is a movie that I love. I'm a big movie geek. I love the movie Inception, but what I also love is the fact that I can enjoy a lot of movies with my little ones. Let me tell you the story about one of my little ones. So I went on the road and I was speaking at a conference in an event. And while we were talking, I was using just my cell phone and an emoji came on my face and I turned into a mouse. I started to talk with a mouse voice and she was like, "Who are you?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm going to play along. My name is Winky Wink." And she was blown away. So she wanted to talk to Winky Wink. We had this conversation, all of these things, blah, blah, blah. You fast forward to her birthday. I completely forgot about this experience. And she said, "Dad, can we invite Winky Wink to my birthday?" I was like, "What?" So I had to find a mask and I showed up. It was wild. The point is, one moment incepted into her mind. This is what I think we all, as marketers, sales execs, need to recognize about this new age. Inside of the LLMs, they are getting memories associated with the people that we want to sell to. They're getting memories of every conversation that you have. So everybody right now could go to Claude right now. If you want to run an experiment, let's run the experiment. I want you to go to Claude, go to ChatGPT, go to Grok, go to Perplexity, whatever tool you use. And I want you to ask, what is the best CRM tool right now for me, and describe your business, your niche, your space, etc. Every single one of you are going to get a different response. This number one CRM for you will not be the number one CRM for me because the LLM has been trained on past behaviors that we have taken on the internet. But nobody's talking about this. We're all pretending that everybody who goes, the CEO who looks and says, "Why aren't we showing up number one?" Well, maybe it's because of memory. Like, it's not the same experience that our buyers are going to have. But everyone is getting this completely wrong. You have two things in your control, though, folks. You can impact memory, and I'm going to show you how, and you can impact the internet. I'm going to show you how. But I believe when you're on LinkedIn and you're seeing all these gurus talk about LLM visibility, AI visibility, you need to recognize that if they're talking about, "Oh, we were able to increase our position as number one," and they're just showing a screenshot of their own ChatGPT account, there's a lot of bias that is baked into that. They have trained it on the back of memory, and some of them don't know that this is going on, but a lot of people are being convinced. And you have to remember that not all memories are created equal. Some of you had no idea what I was talking about when I talked about ICQ. That memory didn't resonate with you, but Blockbuster might have. The same thing works with LLMs. LLMs are going to determine what types of memories about you it should store. My memory and my LLMs know that I am trying really hard to get better at golf. So it talks about golf when I am not even trying to. It is stored in the memory. Here's a bet. Gemini is influencing our buyers that in a way that people don't even like recognize as well. Google has access to our inbox. It has access to calendars. It has access to our browsers. It has access to Drive. Google is it has experience. It has the ability to look at our Google search history. Not to mention, if you take a Waymo's owned by Google, not to mention YouTube, not to mention Google Ads. Folks, people are sleeping on the fact that Google is going to be rolling out things like personal intelligence and preferred sources, where the actual search experience is going to be hyper personalized. So personalized that these tools that I love, I work with a lot of these tools, are going to have a very difficult time actually showing you whether or not ranking or showing up number one even matters. So why does all of this matter? Folks, I want to call it out. There's a lot of people thinking about AI visibility the same way they thought about SEO in 2010. Completely broken. It's not just a checklist, folks. You don't just go through a series of tactics and say, this is what we are going to do to achieve success. No, we're going to do this like Inception. And it starts with level one. The level one of Inception is recognizing that there are three different layers. Layer one is the basics. SEO, AEO, GEO, EIEIO. I don't care what you want to call it. I really don't. Everyone is arguing over the wrong things. Like, stop. Who cares? We all know what we're trying to do. Let's stop. Here's the thing. Google has become a destination. Let's acknowledge that. Let's accept it. Sometimes we need to have hard conversations, and the reality is that Google has taken all of the content on the internet. It has learned from it. It is trained on it. And instead of people going to your website, a lot of you are seeing a significant rise in impressions, but a decrease in clicks. It's because of this. Google is a destination now. Answers are right there in Google. I don't need to click to learn how to grow my HVAC business. Google will tell me how to do it. But if you ignore this today, it's like ignoring a Tamagotchi back in 1997. Poor Rocky. Like, I still remember my first Tamagotchi. I went to my grandmother's house, left him at home, and it was a disaster after that. But that's not the point. All I'm saying is you can't sleep on the fundamentals. The fundamentals still matter, and the fundamentals are pretty simple. EEAT. It was called out by Google for like the last 3 years. They want your websites. They want you as individuals even to demonstrate you have experience, expertise, authority, and trust. Those are the things that you need to show. Showcase experience, expertise, authority, and trust. And today we're going to dive into more of that. And when people tell you that Google is dead, just show them this stat and this data that shows you that Google still represents 73% of the vast majority of search queries. And yes, ChatGPT is influencing everything. Yes, Claude, Perplexity, Grok, all of these things matter and they're driving results, but Google is still the king. All right. This is what I want you to remember. Inject this into your veins. Inject this into your teams. Tell your teams to embrace this idea of ensuring that the stories that are being published embrace experience, expertise, authority, and trust. What does that mean? It means on the experience side, you are trying to create firsthand opinions. You might be creating reviews of your product, hiring influencers to give reviews. You're pressing publish on case studies that are valuable. You're publishing proprietary data, unique insights. You have author pages on your website. So when Google, the LLMs are scraping them, they can see that the people behind the content are actual experts. You want to use that magic word. I tried, I analyzed, I reviewed. Show that the author of the things have actually done the work to see things. And when you do this, something magical is going to start to happen. You're going to start to see that the content that you are actually ranking for is, or that the content that your team is creating is starting to be cited in the LLMs. So the reason why I want to show you this is because there's tools out there today that will give you directional insight into what the LLMs are using to get evidence. What does that mean, Ross? Okay, so every time when you go to an LLM, if you ask what's the best CRM, that LLM is actually going to modify it a few different ways. It's going to say what's the best, what's the top, what's the cheapest, what's the best for a small business, what's the best for a startup. It's going to ask it a bunch of different ways, like 150 on average, which is called a query fan out. You ask it one way, it modifies that 150 ways, and then it starts to do like a Google search. All of this is then it gathering evidence of whether or not your business is number one or not. So you have to now optimize for tons of long tail keywords. You have to show up for best B2B, best sales intelligence tool, all of these different variations. And some of these sites that are ranking are actually like not generating tons of organic traffic, but they're showing up and being cited. So we use tools like Profound, AirOps, Scrunch, SEMrush, Ahrefs. We have way too many subscriptions. I need to get our costs down, but that's a whole different convo. And you can see in these tools what websites are being cited to give the LLMs the data and the response that they give to users. So I encourage you to actually get these types of things like in play with your content, like get your website up to date. And some folks might say, Ross, this is just like good old fashioned like outreach. It is, because what I would recommend you do is actually find what competitors and what brands are showing up and see if there's any ones you can partner with, and then send emails and try to get yourself included in these lists. Now we're thinking a little bit like digital PR meets sales, where you have to reach out to these folks and say, hey, I noticed we're not on your list. Can we get included there? And yes, that's just good old fashioned outreach, just like backlink outreach used to be. But the difference is some of these sites don't get any traffic. Like they are not driving a lot of visits. So that's the play that you can run. Another
Hey,
key
Ross.
thing, folks. Yeah, bring it
Hey,
to me.
just a quick. This is a really important piece here. I want to challenge you on something here, because in the old
Yeah,
days we saw a lot of organizations, and having worked with tons of marketing organizations, a lot of them in the old days really, they not only sucked at producing content, but
yeah,
the content, when they did produce it, it was just absolutely boring, everything
yeah,
else. Now we're seeing the pendulum swing,
yeah,
where I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to turn around and create tons and tons and tons of content. Are we at
right.
risk here, based on what you're showing, that we may be throwing so much crap into the machine that it won't work?
Yeah. So I think the world that we live in today is very different from the past. In the past, we had a lack of content. With the rise of AI, we're getting to a point where there's too much content. And as there's too much content, the stories that we want told are actually being diluted. Stories that are actually true are even being diluted. So as marketers, as creators, as people who are responsible for pipeline, you have to recognize that buyers are now going to LLMs and they're looking for insights. If the insights are based off of training data, that are blog posts and articles that random brands and businesses are publishing, how do you win? You win by actually contributing higher value stories to the training data pool that are actually more likely to be seen as a high authority, high trust, high value. A lot of brands are just putting out garbage. They're copy and pasting from ChatGPT, pressing publish, not thinking about authority, not thinking about how to do these things. And it's all that is there to be cited. So when Will asks like authority without traffic, how does that work? When there's content that is being published, but the actual demand for that content is not high, and it's just robots crawling it, you're not going to see a lot of human traffic to this content. And in what world we live in today is, the reality is like there's a lot of bad content out there. So for us, the challenge is how can we add better content? Like that's the play that I think we should be doing. And that's why I'm excited, because I think in the past we could get away with just mediocre content, but now ChatGPT, Claude can create mediocre content. So how can you create great content, high expertise, high authority, high value, and actually add value to the internet? That's the challenge that we all have to play. And that's where things like this come in, where you start asking yourself, can we put real authors on content that are actually experts? Those are the little things on your site that can play a massive difference. Now, I saw that Aaron asked the question like about Reddit. And I think this is a great point that we need to dive into, folks, because Reddit is, in my opinion, one of the most powerful distribution surface areas that you can touch, even in B2B. And a lot of you might be thinking it. I've never gone on Reddit in my life. My customers are CIOs and CFOs. They are not going on Reddit. Not a chance. Well, folks, here's the thing. You don't have to use Reddit to be influenced by Reddit. Reddit does not need your customers to actually be there. They never have to log in. They don't have to use it. They don't even have to know what an upvote is or what a snoo is or what karma is. They don't need to know any of that to still be influenced by it. Why? Because as they go through this buyer's journey that we've all grown to love, where we're problem unaware and we're trying to decide who our supplier is, there's been a shift with buyers where they no longer are just using their peers. They're also using ChatGPT. They're using Perplexity, or they're using Claude. They're asking questions. They're uploading confidential data to these LLMs. They're uploading your contracts, your proposals, and saying, should I use this company? And guess what's happening? The LLM is going out and it's looking at Reddit posts and it's determining if there's an alternative better than you. There's determining whether or not what you are saying is true, because Reddit has a multi-million-dollar contract with ChatGPT licensing agreement that I think goes for the next 3 years. They also are the top 3 most cited domain across pretty much all categories. And yes, a lot of folks will see a headline that says, oh, Reddit is losing some visibility. If you go from 900, if you go from having 100 apples and then you lose 10, you have 90. If everybody else only has 20 and you go from 100 to 90, you still have a ridiculous high amount, but everyone's always losing their mind when they see that Reddit has a slight dip. Folks, Reddit is still one of the most influential. If I was to make a hot take though, and I know this is on the internet, so people are going to see it, so it's tough to say it publicly, but let's do it. YouTube is my bet. I still think YouTube is the bet. I think Reddit has had a great moment. It's thriving. It's doing well. I love Reddit. But Google owns YouTube. It was a $1 billion acquisition, arguably, in my opinion, the best technology and acquisition of all time. It's the second biggest search engine. Google's losing a lot of ad revenue because nobody's clicking ads on Google search. But you know where they're watching ads? On YouTube. You know where they're also making money? On YouTube subscriptions. What do they want? They want money. Everybody thinks about search and domain authority and all these words that are industry. Let's talk business. They want to make more money. So how are they going to make more money? By getting more people to YouTube. So I have a firm belief, strong opinion, that in the future, folks, every single search query that you do on Google will have a YouTube video embedded at the top of it, even down to the most personalized question around whether or not you should go to the coffee shop next door, because someone will create a video on that and it will live on YouTube. But that wasn't a part of my slides. So how do we fix all of our problems on Reddit? Folks, this is a real SERP that some of you might be struggling with. So let me give it to you quickly because I want to make sure we have some time to dive in deeper. I want you to create a subreddit. Create a subreddit for your brand. The best time to do this was 2 years ago. Second best time is today. This is brand protection. Create a subreddit for your business. Create content in that subreddit. Target client, like your brand keywords that matter in your subreddit. You want to run ads to grow that subreddit so it's able to like build a community. Use your email list to drive more people to the subreddit. And over time, by creating more and more content, when someone looks for your brand name and the word reviews, instead of seeing negativity, they will ideally see content that you have inspired, created, and sent your own fans to go and create. So I strongly recommend that you do that, folks. I strongly recommend that you own your own subreddit, own your brand's subreddit. If you're early stage, huge thing to do. If somebody already owns it, this is my script. I've used this to get subreddits for some of the top brands in the world. You reach out to the mod, you say, hey, I saw that you were running this subreddit. Can I get access to it? And then they make you a mod, and then you get access to it. Let me give you some data, folks, on why this stuff matters. We did this analysis of Reddit and how it's showing up in the keyword set for B2B SaaS. Best, the word best. If people are looking for the best CRM, if people are looking for the best email management tool, the best waste management software, the best software for plumbers, you name it, Reddit is being cited nearly 80% of the time, more than 80% of the time. When you throw in the word top, Reddit is showing up. When you show in the alternative, so your brand versus another, Reddit is showing up in the top queries. Across the most valuable keywords that we think about and should think about, and your paid team should be running ads against, Reddit is showing up. So massive opportunity there. I have a prediction that the reason why Reddit is going to continue to thrive in the LLMs is because of the long tail capabilities. When someone has a very long prompt, they are talking like a human. And if we believe that voice is the future of search and it might play a big role, then people are going to be driving around in their car and they'll have these big conversations of, hey, this is what I'm doing. And guess what's going to be cited? The platform that has hyper personalized, unique, tailored content, which happens to be Reddit. If you're interested in more of this data, Foundation's blog has tons of research like this around the subreddits that have the highest win rate. I strongly recommend that you check it out. We create content calendars for our clients directly for Reddit, the same way that you think about your content for your blog. So we actually will identify, let's create the subreddits, and then let's plan in advance the content that needs to go into your subreddit. This is the play, folks, that I strongly recommend you embrace. Again, I'm not going to go too deep into the data because we have a lot more to go over. But again, check out Foundation's blog, tons of research on this concept and this topic. But I do want to talk about how this can lead to pipeline, because that's why we're all here. We want to make money. So right now, if you're building conversations in Reddit, that content is going to be indexed by Google. For most brands, that's where they clap their hands and they say that's great. Here's what you need to realize: that those conversations are being put into the LLM training data for retrieval from these bots when people ask questions. So if you are able to add more content to these conversations and inspire more dialogue, the models are going to cite Reddit with this content and actually give that back to your customers. Massive, massive opportunity. How can you get more reviews on Reddit though? Here's a quick snapshot on something that I strongly recommend you consider. If you have anywhere on your product, if you're in the software space, even if you're in consumer and you have a mobile app, you should, instead of just having an NPS that leads people to Capterra, G2, TrustRadius, you should also consider whether or not you can do this for Reddit. Ask people if they have a great moment to leave you a review on Reddit and then have them go and do it. All right, here's another core thesis. This one is not baked yet, but I believe this is true. I think every single ad dollar that you spend on Reddit that inspires additional conversation is an investment to influence your buyers. Some of your customers are not there. Don't use it. That's not your play. However, if you can validate that your customers are there, I think running ads today can inspire more conversations that lead to that conversation being a key part of the training data tomorrow. Now, me and Rob were having a conversation earlier. We were talking a little bit about the state of affairs with review sites and whether or not they matter or not. There was a study that was recently done, and it showed that peer recommendations matter a lot. And you can see that review sites are about fourth on the list. Folks, the review sites across the board have lost a ton of traffic. A lot of organizations are investing the same amount that they used to. I'm not saying pull your budgets, but I am saying you have to think about their role much differently than you used to. Their influence inside of LLMs is very, very high. Their influence in search as Google, etc., lower than it used to be. So you have to do some math. I encourage every business to do the analysis themselves and ask themselves, like, is it worth X budget that we're currently paying to be listed number one? Maybe, but you should run the data in an LLM tracking tool to see how often that page is being cited in the LLMs. Are they being cited as much and influencing buyers? Maybe. Those sites are thriving in LLMs, but are they driving as much leads and pipeline? That's the math that we all have to do.
Hey, Ross, a question on, because you're the landmine that some folks are going to step on. I'm going to use the A word, attribution.
Yeah.
Is the attribution world ready for this, or what are you saying with respect to, because what's going to happen is, I agree with all of this, but you know that again, CEOs and boards are going to come back. It's like, well, how do you know? How do you prove it? So what do we have to do on attribution with respect to what you just mentioned? Attribution
is completely broken right now. Everyone can pretend that it's not, but it's absolutely broken.
Are you saying right now? Because I'll argue it's been broken for a long time.
Yeah, it's true. It's been broken for a long time. It broke even more. It is way more broke. Sure. It's like, I think the best thing that everyone can do, which is always a fight with CROs, is like, you have to ask the customer, how did you hear about us? Put it in your forms, folks. Find a way to incentivize and ask that question, because first touch, last touch attribution, meh. Half the time they're using Claude and ChatGPT and they're saying they're using something else. Like, people are messy. No one knows what, like, I barely know what I was browsing yesterday. And I think we have to just be okay with a bit of messy data. And some folks will hate me for this, but I think this is how marketing used to be done. And yes, we had technology and it improved things, but folks, we also have better campaigns. We have more creativity. We have more focus on, like, how can we be close to sales and ensure that we're driving pipeline and revenue and results. And I think we're forced to do it again, but our data won't be clean. So hold me accountable to pipeline. Hold me as a marketer accountable to whether or not pipeline is where it needs to be. And then I'm going to be making sure that your team is responding to my leads, that you guys are there engaging, like what's broken in our process that is not allowing us to win. But I think that's the key, folks. Like at the end of the day, attribution is broken. And you have to get a little bit more creative. Yes, pipeline matters. I think that's the key metric to focus on from a marketing lens, from a sales lens, of course. It's how many deals you close and all of those things that are going to matter. But attribution is broken more than ever before. So one data point that I seen recently was that ChatGPT prefers college level writing. So what I want everyone to start remembering is like MLA and APA writing style. We should be writing I'm just kidding, folks. I know some of you are falling asleep. Just had to check. You don't actually need to do any of that. Be careful what you read on the internet. Yes, college writing is important, but that doesn't mean you need to go APA style. Pretend that I didn't see that. But here's what I do want you to remember. Fundamentals still matter. Optimize your content on your site. It's not only good for search, but it's also good for AI visibility. But let's go into that second layer of distribution. Offsite is where 85% of all citations are happening, not on your domain. So we did this study with AirOps and we found that like nearly 84% across sales, HR, finance, MarTech, more than 80% of all citations for queries in B2B are coming off site. The LLMs don't care about your website. It matters, but it's not the number one source that's influencing buyers. So what you have to do is you need to optimize offsite for experience, expertise, authority, and trust. What does that mean? Well, when we look at the data and you see that own citations on your domain are not even close to those that are not, you have to ask yourself, how can we distribute our stories? How can we distribute our content that we've already published? Some of you are sitting on gold, white papers, ebooks, webinars, podcasts that have been created for the last 3 years, 2 quarters. And what are you doing with this content? You're not promoting it. You're not sharing it. You're not doing anything with it. Massive, massive mistake, folks. The content that you press publish on in Q1 is probably the content that you should be repurposing in Q3. So distribute it so it can go on all of these different channels. There is a massive opportunity for offsite content on review sites. Like you can pay to play. Yes, we talked about this a little bit further, but when it comes to distribution, you need to be thinking, how can you go deeper? How can you go beyond just the review sites? How can you distribute your stories way deeper? Because it's not just blog posts anymore, right? Like you want to go way deeper with your content and go deep by taking assets that you've published and repurpose them so they can be seen as evidence in the LLMs.
Hey, Ross, just a question came in from Aaron, which is a good one. Notorious by its absence is LinkedIn.
Yeah.
How do you what's your quick cut on that?
LinkedIn thrives in perplexity. In finance niche, LinkedIn is getting a lot of citations. LinkedIn articles, LinkedIn newsletters are doing well. I recently saw a study that LinkedIn Pulse was starting to take a dip in Google, but it is still thriving in some of the other LLMs. I think LinkedIn is a key platform. I think all platforms need to be researched for your own individual space. You have to look at your platform, look at your prompts, look at what queries people would look for, and then determine how often is that content actually driving citations in your space, and then create a strategy around it. And I would hold that true across everything that I say today, right? Like I show stats like this, which is showing like in B2B content, if you create statistics roundups, those pieces get the most backlinks. That doesn't mean necessarily that you should go and create a bunch of these. You have to check your own space. You see here like how-to content generating a lot of ROI. I'm not saying that that's what you should do, but I would say is that you check out this report, dive in and see and apply it to your own space and see if it's relevant to you. But when I think about the distribution areas, YouTube, blog content, shorts, review sites, podcasts, Reddit, all of these things play a role. And what I would encourage you to do is to think like an investor. So Aaron, when you're asking about LinkedIn, I think all marketing teams should think like investors and ask themselves about risk and reward. What is the risk of turning a blog post into a LinkedIn article? High, very low, right? It's not a big investment, folks. That's a low investment. But if I was to say, go out and create some original research, there's a lot of risk with that, but there's also a lot of reward. The vast majority of the risk is the fact that nobody will distribute it. the vast majority of the risk associated with investing 40K into a white paper with top researchers is that after you press publish, it collects dust and you don't promote it on X, you don't promote it on LinkedIn, you don't ever do anything with it. You don't repackage it into new pieces. You don't share it on Reddit. So you have to think like an investor. Remember that when you press publish is not when the life cycle ends, it's when it begins, and then start thinking about how you can distribute your content.
So Ross, is the world of gating going away? Because the
I
other
think
thing,
it's dead. I think gating's dead. I think more people need to embrace this idea of just giving it away. The LLMs are scraping PDFs, so why not just give it all away? And then turn that gated content into YouTube videos. Like when I see data like this around where YouTube is winning so many of the search, even for keywords like best in review sites in our space of B2B, they're owning all of the commercial intent queries, folks. Like I really think taking that data, taking your gated assets and then having someone speak to it. Like HubSpot's doing this really well, right? Like I'm on the HubSpot YouTube channel creating content about research and data and things, and that's giving them expertise and experience about a topic that's relevant to them. So what I encourage folks to do is to start creating a world around their YouTube content and embrace shorts. Like short videos are starting to have a moment as well. I don't know if anyone has seen. If you're a CMO, can you hear that?
And you're still obsessing over SEO rankings, you're playing last decade's game. Here are 4 things to know.
So that's not even me. That's AI, folks. I never said any of those words. I used a tool called HeyGen and uploaded my voice, and it created a deepfake of me talking on the camera. It's never been a better time to create content. It's wild. I'm not recommending that everyone go and do this. I don't know your legal rules in your org or if it's okay. But what I'm saying is you can do some wild stuff and you can gather some amazing insights from tools like, again, Profound, AirOps, etc., where you can gather data around which YouTube videos are being cited. You can use tools like vidIQ to improve your thumbnails. When you're seeing that these videos are being cited so regularly, you can win. When you optimize your YouTube videos, some of you are probably sitting on a ton of them, you can see your citations in the LLMs thrive. We have one client, we took their citations from 10,000 to 150,000 in the matter of just a few months because we optimized it, recognizing that YouTube is something that Google will not fail. So I'm going all in on YouTube. Let me give you folks some rapid fire data. Perplexity loves LinkedIn more than ever. If you're in the finance space and you're sleeping on LinkedIn, massive problem. Medium.com, citations are going up, which is interesting. Quora has gone down. I'm okay with that. I don't think that Quora is very easy to crack right now. Reddit in Perplexity has dropped. So I think Perplexity is trying to have that business shift where they're focusing more on the business content. And that's why the investment in LinkedIn is happening. And Reddit is going down. YouTube, where is it thriving? On AI overviews. What's the number one search engine? YouTube. All right. Let's go back to Winky Wink for a second. This is the last layer, folks. The last layer of all of this. We talked about AI, AEO, GEO. We talked about distribution. Let's wrap it in a bow with the deepest level of inception that we all need to be thinking about that no one on the internet is talking about, which is category creation and true inception into your brain. When you are thinking about your prompts and what matters to you, folks, what's the best CRM? That's what most of us have uploaded to our prompt tracking tool. That's horrible. That's absolutely a bloodbath. You're going to see every CRM in the world competing with that. But if you ask what's the best conversational marketing platform, that changes the entire dynamic. So here's the type of prompt that you actually want your customers to use. You want them to ask, hey LLM, I'm on the hunt for a revenue intelligence platform that can help us replace our current stack. We're onboarding 5 new SDRs, blah, blah, blah. I've uploaded all of our confidential data and information because my boss is giving me a crazy deadline. What should I do? What software should I buy? And then the LLM is going to see that word, revenue intelligence platform. It's not seeing CRM. It's seeing maybe a phrase that you've incepted into their mind, a phrase that they're using because of inception, because you've advertised a new position for your brand and your business that only you own. And they see and they recognize, oh, okay, this person works at this brand. They have 5 SDRs. They see that you're the head of sales. They know all of these different things. If you can incept into the minds of your customers a category and a way of calling you out in the LLMs, you win. It's done multiple times in software. Tons of brands have done this. I strongly recommend you consider it and think about it. But there's another thing that I want you to encourage, think about. This is Inception as well. On foundation site, Distribution.ai, and a few of our clients, we've started to, instead of having social sharing buttons because no one clicks them anymore, start asking people to send their content to AI. Send it to ChatGPT, send it to Claude, analyze this with Perplexity, your tool. What does that do? It gives preference. So they're now thinking, oh, this person likes Foundation's content. This person is learning from Foundation. I need to store that in my memory. So we become one of the default sources for the LLM tools. So when someone is clicking and they're reading that content from us about backlinks, they can upload it and they'll learn how to apply the essays that we've created to their business. That is Inception. Folks, with great power comes great responsibility. That's a quote from Uncle Ben, not my uncle, Spider-Man's. There's a lot of opportunity here, folks. Reddit, massive opportunity. I do not want you to try to trick AI into remembering you. That's how you lose. But I do want you to try to think of ways that you can accept and create content that is worth remembering. Create stories that are worth remembering and make it as valuable as Winky Wink. Thank you all so much. I appreciate you. Let's open it up to some questions. And if you have any, I am here to jam on them.
Ross, that was fantastic.
Thank you.
It's when I speak with organizations, especially CEOs, I mentioned, many of them they were looking at this entirely wrong. They see an efficiency play, they see a way, and where I'll challenge you is this takes work.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't be, having run enough marketing organizations, it's right off the bat, it's like, not only does this take work, but I need expertise in my team.
Yeah.
Whether I'm a CMO or somebody managing marketing people, I've got to get them trained.
Yeah.
How do we start? I mean, you threw a lot of stuff here, but we have what you've also presented is an organizational challenge.
Yeah.
Okay, what do I have to do?
I think one of the first things that has to happen is you have to break silos. Like in most organizations, there's a affiliate team, there's a PR team, there's a content team, there's a social team, there's a sales team, and there's not a real clean line of communication across the board. So I think it starts by getting a snapshot of the current state of things and then educating the team as a group, not just like, hey, let's just educate our SEO team, or not just let's educate our social team. You have to educate everyone. Everyone needs to be educated on the new landscape of how buyers are being influenced. The content that is being put out on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on the blog, on the website, the product roadmap, Reddit, Stack Overflow, dev tools, all of these things are influencing our buyers. So let's do an audit of which assets and what platforms are influencing our buyers today and present that data to the team. And then say, hey team, we're seeing that YouTube is showing up, but we're not doing anything on YouTube to influence LLMs. We're doing a whole brand play on YouTube. Or on LinkedIn, our sales team isn't actually active. They should probably be creating articles or putting up posts because our competitors are, and they're eating our lunch. So I think it starts with education. You can't do things when you don't know things. So you have to do the first bit of research to be able to present it and then break the silos.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. A question came in from Aaron. I think it's your thoughts on blog posts versus YouTube short videos. And by the way, the whole role of YouTube Shorts has changed over the past few years.
Massively.
So what are your thoughts on where am I? Am I doing shorts? Am I doing horizontal video on YouTube?
Yeah, great question. I think the beauty of today is you can do both. You take a long form video, that's the evergreen video asset that you develop, and then you're going to chop it up into micro pieces. So every asset that you create should be able to be turned into multiple assets. That would be my recommendation, is to take the macro asset and turn it into something smaller. YouTube Shorts have an entire tab now for certain keywords. You type in best CRM software, it's AI mode, all, and then short videos. Short videos are having an absolute moment. I don't know what that means for all of us and our attention spans, but short videos are having a moment. So I would invest in short videos. I think you should.
Yeah, perfect. Let's get through a couple questions here. I'm going to ask an interesting one about the typical timing of seeing changes in AI citation after you start to work on subreddit. Yeah, this is going to really,
Yeah.
I think, for people who lead marketing organizations. Okay, obviously, again, we talk about the C-suite wanting to see immediate results.
Yeah.
You've done a lot of research. Is anything showing up on how long this takes to germinate?
So every industry is different. I think it's a safe bet that it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in month one. If you're new to Reddit, you don't have an account. You need to build up karma. Reddit has some of the strongest spam filters, has some of the strongest monitoring systems to ensure that no one is doing things on Reddit just to manipulate the system. So what I encourage brands to do is to actually play the long game. If you have a horrible thread that is ranking #1 from Reddit today, you have an option. You can do nothing and it will be there for the rest of the year. Or you can do something and it might be gone in 3 months. But I'd rather reduce my risk in just like 3 months versus wait a whole year, losing probably millions of dollars because someone is telling my potential buyers that we're a trash company. So I think it will probably minimum 2 to 3 months before you start to see the results. But there's a high certainty of results after 6. Because once the content is seeded and it's there and the training data is like baked in, then you start to see that influence.
Yeah, let's talk about, I'll call it the January 1st effect, where people are all excited. We saw Ross talk. We loved him. We're going to go and create, 10 videos and we're going to dump them.
Right.
So, in a moment ago, we talked about how long it takes to germinate, but I think we also have to turn around and tell people, you also have to pace yourself a bit. What's your experience and what's your data say about that?
Yeah, I see exactly that. I think you do have to pace yourself. I think you can't get all excited after hearing someone speak and say, let's just go and hit the ground running and do all of these things. There's some low hanging fruit that you should embrace. Like, I think getting your own subreddit is a brand defense play that any marketing team should 100% do. I think taking old content and then reposting it as articles is a low hanging fruit opportunity that you can do. I think promoting your content on other channels, you can use tools like Distribution.ai. We built it for this purpose, to increase your velocity of promoting your content. So with Distribution.ai, it'll connect to your YouTube channel, your podcast, your blog, and then you can automatically start to write content on LinkedIn in your voice, promoting it on your X account, Mastodon, Blue Sky, etc. And it goes across your whole sales org if you wanted everyone to be doing it. So there's some things that I think you can prioritize to get those quicker wins. But the worst thing anyone can do is to get all excited. Ross just talked about YouTube. Ross talked about Reddit. Ross talked about X, Quora, Medium. We need to do all the things. No. Pause, take a second, and do the research to understand what's going to move the needle for you.
And that's what we have to do with our teams. So for folks on the call, we just have a couple more minutes. You can feel free to raise your hand or just chime in, take yourself off and mute, or dump something in the chat if we haven't covered something. I mean, Ross's presentation, fast moving, he hit a lot of things. So any other open issues for folks, on the call? Because, again, the big question I'll challenge all of you on, what are you doing at 9 o'clock? And based on what Ross is saying, you're giving your team some homework. Other thoughts, folks? So
great. Hey, Rob, I've got one for Ross here. Ross, amazing. I've got your book. I need to now reread it. This is amazing. Look, I'm one of those guys who's looked at Reddit for a long time but never done anything on it. Yeah. Had a crazy conversation last night. Adventure Lane, the guy who showed me how he was just schooling it. I've always had the hesitation of Reddit has a different set of rules that I don't think I understand from a business engagement context. Literally, like the angle that I might get skewered on if I do it wrong on Reddit seems to be, a lot different than other channels. How do you think of what's step one on introducing yourself to Reddit and so forth? Talk us through that.
It's a great question. So Redditors, I'm a Redditor first, marketer second. And I think when you go on Reddit, you have to kind of become that. So the first thing you need to do is lurk and learn. Everyone jumps in to just leap and let's post. That's the fast track to getting banned. I've been banned from Reddit 18 times. Not recently, in a past life. I wrote my first book on Reddit back in 2014. So I've been doing this for a long time.
Well played.
But the thing that you want to do first, folks, is like you go in and you learn. If there's a community that you want to be in, understand the way they talk, understand the things that they care about. Go and sort the content by top posts and get an MBA in what this Reddit community actually wants to see. And then you go in and you give it to them. But you give it to them with kindness. You go in with humility. You thank them for all the value that you may have gotten from Reddit in the past. I love to go down the path of, hey, I'm going to make everyone here feel good by saying, hey, our community, I am so grateful for all of you. You have given me so much value. I've been a long-time lurker. I've consumed so much content here. I wanted to give back. So here's a post that I put together with everything I've learned on MSPs, on bricks, on plumbing, or on insurance, on financials, whatever it may be. You add value and you embrace what I like to call the 4 E's: educate, engage, entertain, and empower. If you can do those 4 things in any story that you tell on the internet, you're going to win. Educate people, provide them with something that they didn't know before. Engage them by maybe asking for their feedback, a question, asking for help on something. You entertain them by telling a story, making a little bit of a joke, humor, all of those things. And then empower by like making everyone feel good. Celebrate others. That always does well. So the 4 E's: be humble, learn a lot first, and then go into these channels and you can win.
Makes a lot of sense.
This is perfect. Well, we're going to turn it over to Pam in just a moment. This is amazing. I have a sense I'm feeling guilty that I'm not. It's kind of like flossing. Are you flossing every day? Are you redditing every day, or doing what you need to do? So Ross, I think you're making us feel good and you're making us feel guilty, but this is great guidance. And for everybody, Ross, do you have your contact information? How people can reach you guys? You have a splash screen that if folks want to reach out?
Yeah, for sure. So folks can definitely reach out. We're Foundation. I've got a ton of various ways in which you can find me. But if you go to foundationinc.co, feel free to reach out to the team if you're interested in learning about our services. But I also have rosssimmons.com, which is where you can also find me. This is where I publish my thoughts that are not approved by the team, all of my perspective on life and business, all that good stuff. So happy to connect with folks. I'm on all your favorite social media channels. If you add me to LinkedIn, my inbox is chaotic. So just say that you were on this chat and I'll be sure to connect with you as well.
Yeah, and Ross, if I may, I'm a fan of your podcast as well. So
Thank
if you
you.
folks are looking for some mental floss, I mean that's a great way. And if you like Ross here, he's even a bit more opinionated on his podcast. So, all right,
Thanks, man.
Ross, thank you very much. I'm going to turn it over to Pam, and as we wrap up our year with and obviously in high fashion here. So, Pam, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. And thank you, Ross. Thank you so much. I knew this was going to be such a great way for us to end our season. Not only will people have stuff to think about 9 o'clock on today, but all throughout the summer. And I think we do all have our homework and really tangible things we can do. So I really, really appreciate that. Just a few final housekeeping things. The recording will be available next week via the Meetup group. If you're registered for this session, you will get the link. And as we've been saying, this is our last and final session for the season. We've had a great season of speakers and topics. It's because of you guys and all of your comments and suggestions that really make the Sammy session so, so powerful. So thanks for you, the first timers who came today and those who consistently attend. We are hard at work at the fall series, and we're going to have more great sessions starting in September. Yes, we will be talking about AI. But there are other topics too that are at that intersection of sales, marketing, innovation. So, okay, Sammyers, keep innovating, gang. Have a great summer, and we'll see you back here in September.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Ross. Bye bye now.
Cheers, everyone.